researcher, team lead at Fortinet, and he trains junior AV and IPS analysts in malware analysis and reverse engineering. Raul Alvarez.
Hello. Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh, it's working. I think I'll give you more time to get more copy. Otherwise, you'll be falling asleep in the middle of the talk. I even fall asleep on my talk. So we're going to look into a ransomware that actually infects your master boot record. I'm going to show you a bit on how to actually debug the boot sector. Okay, before that, some introduction, which is not working. Okay, so I've shown this before in ShowMeCon. This is my second year. And I think they didn't see my old video. That's why they allowed me to come again. Okay, I work at Fortinet. Okay, I have published like 22 articles in various bulletin. You can actually search that. It is user-friendly, that you can basically understand what's going on in some of the malware before. Okay, I also create some articles in our blog posts. Okay, normally this is what I submit for my profile pic, and this is the joke. That's my picture. That's what I feel when I do malware analysis. And those are some of the conferences that I've been with already. Okay, the grays are, I've been there for like 2 or 3 times already. And ShowMeCon is the current one. Anyway, have you seen floppy disk before? Anybody? If you raise your hand, that means you are in a different, you're in the, like, you're born somewhere in between like 70s or no, just kidding. Okay, before, when we have the floppy disk, it's called floppy disk because you can actually bend it. Okay, and then during that time, okay, IBM actually created a 1 gig hard drive. That's on that side. This one. Okay, imagine if you have 2 gig hard drive before and you put it as your keychain, you have now 150 pounds dangling in your. Okay, but now actually just created, you can actually carry a 256 gigabyte of storage, okay, in your keychain. Okay, I'm introducing this so that you know what's that malware is infecting. So this one is actually the structure of your floppy disk. Okay, there's always the very first sector is what we call the boot sector for the floppy, and for the hard drive is actually what we call the master boot record, because the master boot record contains information for different partition, which also contains the different boot sectors. Okay, the malware, I'll show you later that the malware will infect this red one, the very first sector. Okay. Okay, nowadays, there is what we call the UEFI and also the GPT. That is a new version of your MBR. But what are the difference? Okay, MBR-Style uses the standard BIOS. The first sector is the master boot record, and it contains the partition information. Okay, the GUID partition table, okay, it's used by the UEFI. It contains also an MBR, but they call it as protective MBR. It's some sort of like a backward compatibility with the old version. Okay, but same thing. Okay, there's still the master boot record here, and the protective MBR is in the first sector. Okay, so the thing is, okay, they try to make sure that some malware that infects the master boot record before will not be able to infect the GPT. We'll see that later on, if it can protect you. Okay, you can use disk management, this available tool in your Windows system. You can actually initiate or format your drive as MBR or GPT. And if you want to change it, okay, to MBR, if you already have the MBR and you want to change it to a GPT, all you have to do is to do this one, okay? You can change it actually. That is a pre-available tool this one is the conversion. That's a pre-available tool in your Windows system. But, okay, there is a risk if you want to convert your original system from MBR to GPT or GPT to MBR, it can overwrite your data. So be careful So if you want to format or your drive, okay, make sure that you already know what you want to do. But what is the difference between MBR and GPT? So this the creating the disk partition. The main difference for the MBR and GPT, the MBR is actually limited to 4 partitions. Okay, you can only have 4 partitions. But if you want to have more partitions using the MBR, you're going to create logical partitions. Okay, it's some sort of just a virtual partition for that. But for GPT, you can actually create as many partitions as you want. Physical partition, it depends on what you want to do. You can make millions of partitions, but you only have 1 megabyte per partition. Doesn't matter. But now before we do the partition, because it makes the system access faster. But now because we have faster machine, we don't basically need partitions anymore. This is another tool, okay, wherein you can tell, if you run this, you can tell which hard drive is actually a GPT. Just look for the asterisk, okay? Just run this part. Okay, this is now the structure of your GPT and MBR, okay? The MBR system uses the CHS, cylinder head sector addressing. The GPT is using the LBA0, LBA1, which is almost the same. Okay, this one, if you can see this, okay, this is your master boot record. This is the protected MBR, and the information actually for the GPT is here. And there is a backup information at the last end, at the last sector. So what happens is, if this sector get corrupted, this one is your backup. It will be, the UEFI system will get the last partition, okay? So it is supposed to be protected. It is supposed to be more resilient than the MBR. Okay, this is now the conversion, okay? So LBA0 is actually the first sector. First sector is 001, 002 is the next one, and so on and so forth. Let's move now to the malware. Have you heard of Petya? Anybody? Petya is actually, if you watch, what's that? What's that movie? 007. Okay, it is actually the satellite that works on and there's another one with this one. I think the name Petya was taken on that actual 007 movie. I think it's the Golden Eye. Okay, let's look at the execution flow. This is now the time that you really need more copy. Okay, for the execution flow, for the malware, if you analyze the malware by code, okay, this particular sets of information and codes are actually just doing some decryption. Okay, the malware execute this just to decrypt 4 bytes, 4 characters. It will keep doing that in order to produce your decrypted malware code, which is this, okay? It will create a new executable image in the system, wherein after this, you can see actually the new header and so on and so forth. It checks actually, okay, to make sure that it actually gets the header. It is actually some sort of paper install. Have you heard of paper install? It's like pay-per-view, okay? There is some group of people that actually creates a dropper, okay? And then there's a group of people that creates the malware, okay? So they will do some agreement, okay, wherein the first group of people will get the malware and drop it in your computers, okay? So every time they will have some statistics and computation, every time they drop a malware in your machine, okay, they will charge the other malware author, okay, to pay per install, okay? So if the first malware group installs your machine into like thousands of computers, the malware author now will pay thousands per install, something like that. So that's why this particular one actually checks, okay, to make sure that you actually have the actual malware. That is the way of checking that, because the first group of malware can be used using with another malware itself. Okay, that's why they even check if it is the right one. Okay, that is the part wherein it checks the system. Okay, the very first thing, because the malware tries to hide everything, okay, it tries to hide those API that it needs, okay, to make researchers, to make their life harder. Okay, so what happened is they use this API first, and then to make sure that they can get the rest of the APIs. That means if it is installed in Windows XP, it can still run in Windows 7. It can still run in other Windows system because it is dynamically created. Okay, it looks for that section. If that section exists, that means the malware is actually in your system already. It is already decrypted. The decryption actually uses a simple XOR information. Okay, that is now the encryption. You can now see actually here the decrypted version wherein it is actually the information, the ransom note. Okay, slowly giving it away. Okay. Okay, it checks for the bootable disk. Okay, the very first part of checking is like this. It is only using the create file. You're using the device IO control to check which hard drive you are using. Okay, using this, it checks for the physical drive. This is like checking if the file exists. But this one, this is the name of your drive. Okay. The initial call for device IO control is only to check if your hard drive is accessible. Okay, if your hard drive is not accessible by the malware, it will just exit. Okay. How to make your hard drive inaccessible to malware? Ask me that later. I will tell you how, if we have enough time. Okay. Okay, this is how it checks if it exists. Okay. If it is accessible, it will now go to the next stage, which is checking it will now try to overwrite your physical drive. Okay, physical drive 0, okay, for backward compatibility, it is also called the hard disk 0, drive 0, hard disk 0, drive 1, DR1. Okay, for NT4, it uses that name, hard disk DR0, partition 0, and so on and so forth. Okay, for legacy name, okay, because you might have different tools to access your hard drive, these are those names. And nowadays, you can see this as physical drive 0. To open the hard drive as file, you use the create file A API. There's another tool in Windows. Okay, you use the WinOBJ. Okay, it will tell you what is the convention for your hard drive. That one is DR0. Okay, and this is now your second set of device IO control, wherein it is now going to try to infect your system. Okay, it uses the device IO control. It checks what kind. It is now going to check earlier the first device IO control and create file. It is just used to check if the hard drive is accessible. Now it is going to check what kind of partition. Is it MBR or is it GPT? Okay, it even knows if it is a raw, if it is not formatted. Okay, there is another tool, you can use that, you can download it using the sysinternals. If you know sysinternals, there's a process monitor wherein you can actually monitor. If you have the malware or before the infection, you will be able to run the file monitor, and then you will be able to see if there's something happening in your hard drive. Okay, but this one, okay, you will not be able to use this if your system is already infected. Okay, you can only use this if you got the sample, you got the malware, infects your machine. I don't know why you want to infect your machine. Okay, okay, normally you go to your neighbor, try to infect their machine. Okay, Or you can just say, oh, I have some games here. No, I'm just not sure. I'm not telling for you to do that. And then you can monitor using, but you have to download first the process monitor. Then you can see that it is going to infect your system. Okay, what the malware does is it reads your partition. It reads a copy of your MBR. Okay, it will have a series of opening up the file, setting the file pointer, XOR, this is the encryption, okay, from sector 0 to sector 21. Okay, so the first sector, it will just read it first. Okay, it will now start reading and encrypting this code, this particular sector. Okay, it will write again to your hard drive. Okay, if your system is already working, if it is already running, if you're already in the Windows, okay, whatever you do in these sectors, okay, it will not be affecting the Windows system, because the Windows system has its own structure already. Okay, it already passed this particular part. Okay, and then it writes the new MBR because he already has the copy of the original. So now he has the new MBR, and then it writes its own kernel code starting at sector 22. That kernel code is the one that will execute once you reboot the system. Okay, it has now, if you're going to study Petya, this malware, you can actually create your own kernel code. You can create your own operating system if you have the time. The structure for a master boot record and a boot sector is actually, it is just one sector at 200 hex bytes, okay? But the marker at the end is 55 AA. If it is a 55 AA, that means it is a boot sector. This one is the reading part of the code. Okay, while it is executing, you will see it in the process monitor that, see, it reads the offset is the first sector, and then one whole sector, which is 200 hex bytes. There is another tool, okay? I'm not going to show you where to get it because you might get it from a wrong source. But this one, this is not the malware, okay? This is just a tool. If you use this one, you are now able to actually overwrite your own sector. You don't need the malware to destroy your MBR. Just download this, okay? Download this, get some file, write it to the sector on the disk, then you have it. You have now a corrupted MBR. Okay, you can read whatever is in the physical drive, okay, or you can specify the sector, the number of sector, which sector. You can put it, you can save it in a file, okay, and then you can write anything on your hard drive. Okay, again, for the 55AA, this is the marker that you are actually reading a boot sector or the master boot record. Okay, this is the code from Petya, okay, which is similar to the one that we had from the hacker tool. It reads the MBR. This is now the code that reads the series of sectors, the XORing, and then this is now the writing of the malware code. Okay, this is now the infected version of your sector. Okay, XOR with 37 is actually 37 hex. ASCII is actually number 7. Okay, this is a series of monitoring using process monitor. This is now the writing of the actual sector, reading, writing, and so on and so forth. Okay, it will be done until it reaches the sector 21 or sector 22. Okay, and now it writes the new MBR. This is now the new MBR. Okay, this is the original one. This is the new one. Okay, it looks almost the same, but from here, this is the part wherein it has the information for your partitions, and then it is now gone. Okay, it is actually saved somewhere in your disk. Okay, okay, that is the new MBR. This is actually a new operating system. It is the malware's operating system, the new kernel code. Okay, if you're using MBR, it has the first sector for the master boot record. If you're using GPT, It has the per sector protective MBR. If you have the malware, it can infect the same. Okay? Because it knows if you are using MBR or GPT, if you are using GPT, it will overwrite the last sector too, which is the backup. Okay? It is very intelligent. Okay, you can read this. You can read any sectors that you want. So sector 22 is equivalent to 35 in decimal. So you can actually read any sector that you want in your system. You can overwrite, you can corrupt any sector that you want. Okay, this is actually I'm just showing here the actual malware code. You use Hijacking, you grab it from your text, you save it to a text file. It is actually similar to this. Okay, this is actually some of the ransomware node, okay, using the Hijacking. Okay, it is actually a very good tool, but I'm not telling where to get it. Okay, if you're infected with Petya and you're rich, you want to pay because you don't want to analyze, you can just go here. Oh, I just remove it so that you don't need to pay for me. It is an onion address. Normally, it is the onion address where you want to pay. Okay, now your system is already infected, but the kernel code. So the first stage is it just overwrites your hard drive. Okay, and then if you don't restart your machine, okay, the kernel mode or the kernel code from the malware itself will not activate. That means the malware will force your computer to restart. First, it will escalate the privilege using these APIs. After that, there is an API that you will actually force your machine to reboot. The anti-race hard error. If you use this one, if you put that in your program, okay, every time you encounter this, your machine will restart. Okay? If you want if you are a developer creating a program and your client doesn't want to pay, you can just trigger this, right? If client didn't pay, reboot every time. Okay? That's the good thing with the malware. You can actually, no, it's not a good thing. You can actually learn stuff that you won't think it's possible. Now, this is now the moment that you are waiting for. We are now going to debug your boot sector, which haven't been done before. No. Payload in a debugger. There is a tool that you can download. It's called Box. I don't know how you really have to say it. Box is actually used as emulator. If you want to play your favorite DOS games and it doesn't run on your Windows system, okay, you can use Box because it actually simulates Intel 86 processor. Okay, it runs your old DOS games because if you want to play Galaga, okay, you can use this. If you want to play your other stuff, the old ones, that's your favorite, and it doesn't want to run, okay, you can use download Box. It is free, okay, and then you can run this one. But this one, I use it to debug. You can actually use it to debug your system, okay. I did it. I tried to look for the very starting point of the boot sector, the 7C0, because it is not very it's not very user friendly for debugging, okay, unlike your own regular debugger. Okay, I step for each instruction 5 million times. It took me like a whole year doing that. Every time I go to work, I just press that one to step through. Okay, it is now, okay, after reaching this, it is actually the right number, okay, but it depends on what system you're infected. If you're infected a bigger, or it depends on the hard drive that you have infected, okay, if you want to analyze, it's probably this one is different. But if you want to have this, you should go to my cube and analyze this with me. Then you just have to count 5 million press. Okay, that's why I trained my left hand to use the mouse because I got a carpal tunnel after doing this. Okay, 7C0 is actually the bootstrap. Okay, actually Petya and other operating system, it starts at 7C00. That is now after the initial reboot. Okay, the new MBR code is this. Okay, it actually transfers. This is now your box. Okay, this is your registers. this is your code, this is your dump. Okay? If you're doing regular debugging, this is some sort of a familiar thing. But the problem is, for your regular debugger, if you're using OllyDebug, Immunity Debugger, X64DB, they always refresh for you. But this one, okay, every time you move something, this one refreshes the value, but this one is not. So you have to refresh every time. Okay? So imagine 5 million times, instead of just pressing 5 million times, you have to also refresh 5 million times. Okay, that's the register windows, the debug window, and the dump window. Okay, because when you run a boot sector code or the kernel code, okay, normally when you turn on the computer, which you don't really know what's going on, okay, the computer, when the first time you turn it on, it doesn't know if you're going to use a Linux box or a Windows system. Okay, that means it doesn't have any API. It is using INTs, the interrupt codes, right? So, for example, you want to use this, you're going to change the video mode using interrupt 10, okay? You just have to trigger this. Okay, this one is actually interrupt 13, function 42, is actually the reading of your sector, reading of the drive, okay? This is what happened. Okay, in the DAP, this address packet, these are the information for that particular sector, okay? And then Petya is actually using this. It is going to read the very first sector, which actually jumps to sector 22, which is where your kernel code resides. Okay, this is what happens. Okay, it reads the 200 bytes from sector 22, put it back again to 7C00, and then it will start now running the kernel code. Okay, take note, during this stage, your computer is not yet encrypted. Your files are not yet encrypted. Okay, remember that when you have ransomware, it always do the encryption, and then you have to pay. But this one, during this stage, your files are still safe. Okay, if you happen to intercept the infection from here, you can still get your files. But if it starts running the encryption, then you don't have the time to do it. Okay, actually, if you see this, hold on. Okay, one of the problem with one of the challenges using the box is, yeah, you have to refresh constantly, unable to put comments, like you have to remember everything because, or you have to write something in your notes because you cannot really put comments in the debugger. Okay, something like this. Okay, this one initializes the video screen. Okay, I'm just breaking it down for you. Okay, this one is reading the copying the contents of the MBR. This is the first step. Put it in the safe place. These are where the addresses of the Tor, okay, contains. It is in the buffer 7978. And again, I try to blur out those addresses. Okay, don't pay for me, it's okay. I already paid. Okay, it reads the sector 36. Okay, this is now the marker. Okay, take note, this is very important. This particular byte here is a marker. The malware checks when the marker runs the kernel mode, okay, the kernel code itself, it checks this particular byte. If it is 1, that means it is already encrypted. There's no encryption going on. If it is 0, it will encrypt your system. Okay? It is important later on if you go here. Okay, this is now, when you run your malware, it will give you a simulated screen wherein it will try to execute the code. This is just writing the messages. Okay, it is actually, it looks like a normal check this. You know, when your computer before doesn't execute properly, it will try to automatically run the check this. Okay, during this time, at this particular moment, it is now trying to just check. It says checking this, but it's not actually checking the disk. Okay, you can intercept the infection if you can stop this, if you stop somewhere here. But there's a warning, do not turn it off. Okay, and then this is now the problem. Okay, wherein if it starts encrypting your code, okay, if you see this information, What happened? It's done? Oh, it should be on the next video. Okay, this one is just showing you the message for the check this. It will look like legit because you just copied that check this. Okay, but it is just actually writing characters on the screen. Okay, okay. The next one is actually writing the encryption marker because see, it is not infecting your system yet or encrypting your files yet. It is already putting the marker. That means, okay, it's going to actually infect this. Okay, so actually this Petya, this malware, this ransomware, is actually not encrypting your files. It is encrypting the MSFT. It is a table, or MFT, the master file table. It is a table wherein informations or the metadata for your file resides. Okay, it is actually just encrypting the data, the metadata, the information for your file. That means if you're infected with this particular variants of Petya, you can actually brute force the cleaning. Okay, if you have forensic tools that you can run, you can actually run your forensic tools. You can actually force the file. You can actually get the file by using your forensic tools, or you can create your own tool to grab those files. Okay, I think they upgraded this one, so I think there's no way to do that. Okay, the malware computes the number of sectors, the entire MFT. Okay, first the malware computes the MFT, how many sectors it's going to use. Okay, for this sample, for the hard drive that I infected, it's not mine. Okay, it has 32,000 sectors wherein it is going to infect that. Okay, once now it will show you actually the actual infection. Okay. See, it is just not a regular outputting of characters. It is actually doing the computation. Okay, this is doing the sector 0. Okay, original MFT entry will look something like this. If it is encrypted, it will be something. It will look like this, like so many garbage data. Okay. Okay, now if you have intercepted the malware even before this, okay, you're still good to go. But if the malware start doing this, okay, do not ever, if you want to recover your hard drive, never ever stop the execution. Imagine, okay, if you are in the middle of the infection, 50%, it encrypts your drive, and you stop, you panic, you turn it off, okay? So half of your drive, or half of the MFT is encrypted, half is still the original one. And then, you decided to pay the ransom, right? What happens? You will get the key, okay? You will now use the key to decrypt the half of your MFT. It will now encrypt the half of your MFT, right? Your decryption key, the one that you bought with your hard-earned bitcoins, is now the key to encrypt half of your MFT. Did you get the idea? Okay, that's why when you see this, never ever stop the malware from execution. Let the malware encrypt the whole thing so that when you get the key, you can decrypt the whole thing. Okay? Do not stop this particular malware. Okay? No, I'm just kidding. Remove the last part that I said. Okay, but it's true. If you encrypt only the half part, the half part is still the original one. If you get the key, it will actually decrypt the half part. Your key becomes your encryptor. Okay. Again, say the very first stage, okay, the malware infects your sectors. It initializes the reboot, which is the anti-race hard error or something. I forgot. And then now, you are now in the boot sector. The malware put the marker that it is already encrypted, okay, and then it encrypts your MFT. Now, it has to reboot again. Okay, there is now actually another information that it has to reboot the system. It is because it doesn't have the API, it is now going to use an interrupt call, which is, I think it should be somewhere here. interrupt 19. So this is now the part wherein it reboots. Once it knows that your system is actually encrypted, okay, it will now show a red screen with a white skull. That is now your Petya. That is now the part where it scares you to pay, right? It is now going to do that. Everything now happens on the kernel mode. It will not go through that one. Remember that your files are not encrypted. It is only the MFT, the master file table. Okay? It will go something like that, and then you panic again. You throw your laptop, then you actually won't be able to recover probably you have a broken screen and everything. The only problem with this one, compared to a regular ransomware, okay, the ransomware that infects your files, okay, you still have a chance to go online, put your Bitcoin payment, okay, and then you can now probably get the key. But this one, since it is infecting your master boot record, there's no way to go to your notepad, to your browser. So what do you do if you're infected with this? If you are in an office environment, probably you're infected, and then you can use your coworker's computer to pay the Bitcoin, right? But if you're a regular home user, you only have one machine, you're infected, what you're going to do? You cannot pay. Where can you pay? You cannot pay, you cannot use your computer. Again, go to your neighbor's computer, then do the payment. Or you can do it the other way. Infect your neighbor's computer, go to your computer, pay for the Bitcoin, then restore his machine. Right? Every tips that I said, do not do it. Do not do that at home. Okay? And then after that, have you seen it? I actually tricked the malware to decrypt, but actually it didn't decrypt. It actually runs again the decryption. I think you missed it. I missed it too. This one. See, I tricked it. Okay, the key is my name. Then it works. And then once it decrypts the whole thing, it reboots again itself. If you happen to see this, instead of the scary blinking skull, you actually have decrypted the system. But this one, I just tricked it because I have the code. Okay, this is not actually decrypted. I just tricked it. That's it, I think. For our finale, okay, the first stage is actually copying everything to infecting your hard drive. Okay, it uses the fake check this, encrypts your MFT. It reboots again, displays the ASCII skull, and now waits for your Bitcoin. If you're mining Monero, okay, you cannot just exchange it to Bitcoin and then pay for this. And these are the tools that I use. The disk management, these are the free part. This is free from Windows. This is from sysinternals. This is where you just go Google it. Okay, this is free, Box Debugger, and you can now run your favorite Windows or DOS application. And that's it. Any question? Did you fall asleep? I knew it. Any question? Excuse me? How long does it take to run through the whole assembly? If you double click the malware, it's just an instant. Oh, how long does it take to analyze? It depends on your goal. You can analyze it and then see all the infection. But if you're using the Box Debugger, you actually have to. What I did is actually I execute that in a virtual environment using VirtualBox. Grab the infected hard drive, run it in Box. It depends on how it. For this one, actually, the part that I try to skip on 5 million instructions. Okay, I just do some computations to make it even faster to compute, to get to that particular point. Okay, it takes me like probably, I don't know, more than like few weeks, and just for the reversing. But doing the slides and everything, it's longer, probably months. Question? You missed everything. Oh. If you it should remove itself for the after the decryption. If it is able to decrypt the whole thing, it will return your MBR to its original process, to original location, and then cleans the rest. But probably the malware is still there. But the problem is, remember this: if you are infected with a ransomware and then you pay using your Bitcoin because you're rich, okay? So you paid for the decryption key. The problem is the malware authors now knows that you pay. Okay? They will tell it to their friends, tell it to the other friends, and now every ransomware in their arsenal, they will send it to you because you're the person that pays. Okay? So and it is not always bulletproof that you pay, you get the key. No, it doesn't really works that way. Okay, sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. So my suggestion is, if you have a backup, use the backup first. If you don't have the backup, I don't know what's next. But never ever pay. Okay. Question? Sir?
Actually, I just had a comment. There's a lot of talk about paying the ransom, but just remember, the only reason ransomware exists is people pay it.
Yes.
I always tell people, if you're infected with ransomware, your data is gone. Just wipe your
Yeah.
and start again.
It always pays if you...
You can't afford to lose, back it up. If you are infected, it's gone. You're not paying.
Yeah. If you don't have any important information in your machine, don't pay. Right?
If you want to like securely wipe your like an SSD or spin hard drive, how would we just go
If you just want to clean the whole thing, a regular format will do the thing.
when you reload Windows operating system?
Yeah. You can just if you decided just to wipe out the hard drive, you can just get a CD or the DVD that has the installer. You can just format it, and then, because it's just a regular, imagine it's just a regular application. It's just a regular operating system, some sort, wherein if you override it, it will just wipe it out. Okay, unless you go online again, get the same malware. Oh, you didn't ask the question that I told you to ask me. Okay, if you are actually in your Windows system and you don't have an admin privilege running in your system, the malware will actually, remember the first check? The initial check is if it's going to able to access your hard drive. If it is not, because you're not an admin, you don't have the admin account, okay, log in into a system, okay, it will not actually infect your machine. You forgot to ask that. Question?
So if you use a drive, like a whole different drive encryption, is that also be a safeguard?
Drive encryption. No, if your drive has the encryption, okay, the malware only sees a physical drive. So if your MBR or the sectors are encrypted, it is just normal bytes, right? It will still infect your sectors, if it is capable of infecting your sectors. Excuse me? Oh, the tools? Yeah, of course. This one? No more questions? I think that's it. Thank you for not sleeping.